Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. We sure appreciate you being part of Missoula Real Estate Today every weekend. A happy Easter weekend to one and all. We continue to practice social distancing here on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest this week, Webb Brown. Webb is the CEO of the Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service. Webb, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here, remotely, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I always start out with, kind of a get acquainted session here. What is the, I'll abbreviate, I said Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service. We'll call that MRMLS. How did you become its CEO? How long have you been there, and what all does it do?
All right, thank you. I was not as familiar with the MLS was all about either. Bought a house or two, obviously used that service and the agents that helped us use that service in the past, so I didn't know a lot about it. I retired end of 2018 after 20 years running the State Chamber of Commerce, the Montana Chamber of Commerce, as the CEO there. And so certainly had familiarity with realtors and what they did, but not to this degree of depth, certainly going forward. So the Montana Regional MLS, Multiple Listing Service, was formed when the multiple listing services of Missoula and Kalispell combined, merged about 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago now, and decided that they would combine their services. A lot of folks were using the multiple listing service in each area, and just kind of efficiencies of scale kind of made sense. And then during that time, they actually survived and ran the organization basically on kind of a loaned executive basis of the executive officers of each of those former associations that ran the MLS, running it. And then when they grew and started to bring some others in, the Helena MLS started in the end of 2018, and then the Butte and Great Falls MLSs joined early in 2019, and then Bitterroot late in 2019. They decided they just needed to take the step to hire full-time staff specifically dedicated to running this organization. So they advertised. I saw it promoted. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. It's like a startup on one hand. It's a brand new business and a for-profit besides, different from what I'd been doing in the past, nonprofit work. And, thought with my entrepreneurial background, I've run several businesses myself. It would be kind of cool to try that. So I actually put in my application, and danged if they didn't select me. So I've been enjoying it a lot and learning a lot. So our basic benefit that we provide is this listing service that realtors rely upon to provide the most comprehensive and complete and accurate data about the properties that are for sale, whether they are looking from the perspective of selling property for a homeowner, or whether they're looking at buying for someone else. So we try to make sure that everything we put into the system is as accurate as possible, as complete as possible, and up to date as well. Very much in this world that we're living in now, and it certainly has changed over the last month or so, hasn't it? We were pretty much online anyway. So it's basically, there hasn't been a great deal of change for our little organization, but it has brought some new wrinkles into it. Besides me, there is a technical director who helps with all of the specifics of running this listing service. We contract with another group that actually provides the software programming for it, but we have to stay on top of that. And then we have a person who runs our what we call subscriber relations, who does all the billing and the subscription service for the MLS throughout the year. So that's kind of a thumbnail, I guess. What did I miss, or what would folks be more interested in?
Well, I don't know, not having looked at the position guide, but I thought it was pretty cool, though, that part of the, maybe a big part of the appeal to apply for the position was because of the newness of it, right? It was unique, and that was something you thought, hey, this would be a great challenge to pursue, an opportunity to maybe build something from the ground up.
It is, because on one hand, it's a new business. It literally did not exist 5 years ago. On the other hand, it's got this great base that of the merged companies that came together that were very successful in their own right already.
Right.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You can start somewhat from the ground up, but on the other hand, you just got a real strong base to work forward from. So I've been very fortunate, a strong board of governors that actually oversees, and it's made up of each of those 6 regions, representatives from each of those.
Yeah.
And then, we run it on a monthly basis, day-to-day operations out of the office here in Helena, even though, again, it's spread all over western Montana.
I felt pretty special. I know a governor. I looked at your website, and there was Brent Wahlberg from from Diane's office, Windermere, here in Missoula. Our guest this week on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, Webb Brown. Webb is the CEO, Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service. And Webb, you mentioned compiling accurate data to better help real estate agents. What all do you have to go through to achieve that? What is it that you kind of have to dig deep and look thoroughly through?
Yep. It's a whole list of things, and actually it's interesting because I just got off the phone a half an hour or so ago before this taping with our what we call our fields committee, and it's all of the fields for data that's included in the multiple listing service. So everything from the square footage to the year that house was built, and the location, and the amenities and utilities, and so we try to provide all of that data that anyone could possibly want. And believe me, there are some new ideas of things that should be offered as new fields so that the agents can access it and then provide it to the customer. For whatever reason, they may be interested in what's the school district that's associated. We try to provide information that folks can access and determine when they're making this major, significant milestone purchase in their life, that it's the right fit, it's what they want, and it's going to fulfill everything that they're looking for. So we try to do our best to provide training as to how to fill out the field. We actually do have a little program that crawls the listing service every day and scrubs it for potential errors and problems, and alerts folks to what those problems are. If a geocode isn't entered correctly, whatever, we send out a notice and have folks correct those kind of things. We are required to get listings on the market within 48 hours of when the contract is signed. So again, we try to make sure that it's as current as possible for folks overall.
Yeah.
But all of that data then is entered into the system and made available to all the agents. It's kind of funny. It's what we call co-opetition. It's cooperation on one hand.
Co-opetition.
You're bringing all of that data together, where otherwise you'd have to beg, borrow, steal from your competitor to access it. But because it's brought together and shared cooperatively, it makes for a better system and makes sure that everyone is playing on as best as possible the same level playing field.
That's a great term. I like that. Now, of course, you're doing this for the benefit of the realtors, but it seems to me like there'd be an awful lot of advantages to both a buyer and seller there in the chain.
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, that's really who this is for, so that the customer has the best information they can rely on going forward. One of the things that we do, and we can talk about that as well, you must be a realtor to be able to participate in the program. And part of being a realtor is passing and agreeing to the Code of Ethics that the National Association of Realtors proposes. So again, we know these days there are a lot of options for folks to look at in either selling or buying a home. We just want to make sure that folks can rely upon the multiple listing service and the agents that use it to provide the most accurate information, and again, for them to make the best determination of this significant purchase or sale in their life.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Webb Brown, CEO, Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service. Webb, do Montana real estate agents and or agencies, are they required to be members?
Yeah, they need to be a member before they can participate in the program. The agencies can have some support staff who aren't realtors who can access some of the information, but otherwise it is a requirement. Agents and appraisers, there's a possibility of appraisers because they're looking at the same type of data as well. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to be a member of one of the 6 local MLSs. We have some folks who are agents and members of other associations, but when they're members of that association, that means that they are a member of the National Association of Realtors, and again have passed that code of ethics as well. We know that there are folks who do business from outside this area that want to come in and, like I say, either sell or buy properties for their clients, and so we allow them to have that access by being a member somewhere. And as you may know, and folks may know out there as well, when you're a member of the local organization, you are a member of the state organization, and you are a member of the National Association of Realtors all at the same time. It is definitely a tiered membership, tiered relationship.
Yeah. You talked about having access to very accurate data. What are some of the other benefits and advantages to being with the MLS?
We do offer some other programs for our subscribers, and basically it's helping with some of the networking and some of the contact and ways to reach out to folks as well. Some programs, one is called Home Snap, one is called Showing Time, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into kind of what the market is doing. But they're all programs that the Board of Governors has decided are benefits, so purchase them on behalf of the entire subscriber list and then make them available. So the key for us, as you well know, in Montana, we've got a lot of small businesses, and
sure,
even though there are some big agencies in the MLS and across the whole state, of course, and outside, we also want to make sure that we're providing the best service we can to the very small agencies, kind of the mom and pop as well. So some of these programs and products that we provide are trying to do that, give them access to the services and the training and the advantages that some of the larger folks may have built already into their agencies, although those agents use those services as well. So that's some of the additional benefits, but it's very much, I would say, on the periphery, we try to be very focused on just running the best possible listing service that we can.
Webb, what are some common issues you have to address with realtors, their questions and concerns? Maybe an example of a transaction where you might have to intervene or, I don't know, maybe interpret?
Well, there are, and I go back to where we talked a little bit about the violations or the errors that come up in the system, and sometimes folks will say, well, this doesn't make sense to me. Why am I not, why do I have to show what the total square footage of the house is when I've already listed each floor and what the basement is? Well, there are some interpretations, for example, a finished and unfinished basement, what's actually considered in that. We do have some descriptors and that sort of thing that help folks make those determinations as they go forward. But we still get common calls and emails, that sort of thing. So we don't really get into the specifics of the relationship between the agent and the client, or even between agents. It's really still very much on what's in the listing service and what do we do to make sure that it's easy to use and at the same time as absolutely accurate as possible. So I don't know that there are any issues that we get into specifically on the agent client side. That is somewhat more issue with the state association and the national association, but just trying to make sure that everyone understands what they need to do, how they do it, and making sure that they're up to date on anything that may be changing. As you know, lately we've had a lot of conversations about some of the changes that are coming down and how we deal with that, and just trying to keep folks aware.
In what ways do you see significant differences in the housing markets in the counties you represent from Montana city to city?
Well, I think there are fluctuations, and as you can well imagine, certainly properties pricing is generally higher around the lake, the Flathead Lake
Sure.
area. Although even north up into Eureka as well, I think the averages tend to be a bit higher there. Nothing new. I think that's been for quite some time now. And then fluctuations, you will see some variation when there are impacts to a local market. It's been a long time now, but for example, Smurfit Stone, the changes that came about when that company left, those type of things, although again we haven't seen to that kind of scale, you will see some fluctuations from time to time in the local markets associated with that. Otherwise, I think it's been fairly steady. Again, recognizing that I haven't gone all the way back in all the data, only been here a little over 6 months, I guess. But definitely on the pricing side, we do see some of that with different areas in the state.
Well, even though you're fairly new to the position, there is, again, going back to your website, there is a snapshot of the MLS Q1 sales for the counties in western Montana on your site, residential and
Right.
land sales. What are those numbers saying to you?
Interestingly, and I'll throw in, we also have, I mentioned the Showing Time Market Stats is one of the programs that they do
Right.
for this extra service we provide, and we just got the report from them yesterday. So there'll be a little bit of variation in there. But actually, it's interesting to me that the market has really not dropped off that much. We do see when we look at the closed sales in the first quarter of the year, we're still pretty much up significantly from what it has been in the past. Up to 30% higher. In some of the markets overall, but it's still relatively small, so a few sales can make a big difference overall as well. But I guess the bottom line, and not again to get into too much specifics, is that it doesn't seem to me that things have dropped off as much overall. So that's one of the things that is highlighted. Now, how much of that is residual? Because again, we didn't get into the order until March, and that was the last half, I guess, really, that the impact was felt.
Right. Yes.
In March. So that may make some difference. So I would just add that caveat in there. But I think that's one of the things that we see, and prices still, certainly at the first part of the year, seem to be holding as well. We have definitely seen a drop-off in the listings just of late, and then certainly folks concerned about showings and even being able to get out and go to showings and look at homes. Nobody wants to buy a home without at least once setting foot in it, or rarely do you see people that want to do that. And they've been severely limited. It's not out of the question now, but it's definitely been cut back. So I would suspect as we go into the next quarter, and we'll certainly see results when we see the April numbers, I think we definitely will see some downturn.
Yeah.
Just how much that's going to be, I don't know.
I want to get more of your thoughts on that in just a second here, but just to follow up on what you've been talking about, maybe expand a little bit. In terms of land and houses available for sale, your observations, where is Montana strong? I guess I should say Western Montana, the areas you represent. Where is it strong, and what deficiencies do you see that maybe could be addressed?
Well, and in Missoula there, one of the issues that we deal with is affordable housing. Who knows what will come out of all of this pandemic at this point in time that will impact that. Certainly a lack of overall inventory on the market, and then specifically in the affordable side as well. Otherwise, fluctuations throughout. I come from Sanders County, got my house there still. Sanders County is such a small population and such little activity that it's hard to see. What Sanders County has almost been kind of the opposite of some of the other places where there was a little bit of a dip last year. Sanders County had a big increase last year just in the residential sales. But again, that's a small number of properties. Overall, we have seen like I say, a little bit of a dip last year, and then the first quarter of this year was coming on strong, and we'll just see how much that goes forward. But otherwise, from the price standpoint, yeah, the lake properties seem to be, the most value and the highest price at this point in time. And then just as far as the land, we don't do as much on the land side, so that's as it doesn't have, I guess, the reliability that I'd like to see in making projections or guesstimates on that.
Hey, we want to thank some of Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today every weekend on News Talk KGVO, Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. Our guest, Webb Brown. Webb is the CEO of Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service. And Webb, as we started to talk about a little bit, obviously entered completely new and unknown territory with the coronavirus outbreak. In what ways have your members shared with you what effects it is having on the way they're having to do business now?
Well, just flat number one, being able to do business. The MLS runs on what we call a subscription basis. There's a subscription fee. You can either pay annually for the whole year or quarterly. Just finished up our quarterly billing that started April 1, and there definitely were some folks who said, I just have not had any sales, and just not sure what I'm going to do. So we definitely have seen an impact from that perspective. And going forward, Governor obviously just extended again the stay-at-home directive.
Mm-hmm.
So, you sympathize with those folks and understand what they're facing as well. It also has impacted what their basic operations of what they're able to do. We have not prohibited showings. We have not prohibited open houses in the region, although we are strongly encouraging our subscribers and members, participants, to consider every option they can to not do that. Virtual tours, those sorts of things are very much coming online and being more used. They were already used somewhat in the past, but now much more aggressively, I think, as well. I had a little bit of a caveat, full disclosure. My wife became a realtor last year as well, and so I'm learning a lot from her experience in that, too. She has still been doing a lot of work, a lot of it by phone, a lot of it by Zoom, and other options, but she still does some showings.
Right.
When she does, she is practicing social distancing. She is trying to be as safe as possible, wearing the booties and the gloves and having disinfectants throughout and that sort of thing. It's impacting folks. And again, I not knowing how long it will last, it's just, this is the new normal. And so if we're going to continue working and moving forward, we want to be as safe as we can, not only for ourselves, but for those customers and clients and the new homeowners as well. We don't want to belittle the point, but folks who want a home, there's still a need for that. I mean, bottom line, how can you shelter in place if you don't have shelter? So we definitely want to try and fulfill that opportunity for folks as they go forward, but we absolutely also want to make it as safe as possible for everyone as they go forward. So those are kind of some of the ways immediately that we've seen. There's a lot of folks still doing a lot of conversations about, when we get through with this, then let's look at getting your home ready and getting it on the market, but maybe now is not the best time to do it. And then there are folks that say, no, I want to go ahead and I understand what we're looking at, and I will do these things from my side. The agent can do these things, and the customer, potential buyer, can do these. And just trying to make sure everybody follows the guidelines as best they can.
Well, now you get to impart your sage wisdom and be the wily, crafty veteran for me. What makes a good realtor, and what advice do you give to people who are interested in becoming realtors? And yes, that includes your wife, who is new to the business, if she happened to ask you.
Well, I would certainly encourage it. I think it's an opportunity for folks if, again, they have a little of that entrepreneurial spirit themselves, too, and want to be their own boss. Almost all agents are independent contractors. And so, yeah, to be able to do that, some folks do it as full-time and do very well. Some folks do it as part-time, as an additional activity that they can add on. So there's a lot of flexibility in the industry. You can specialize and just do certain aspects, condos, for example, or something like that. You can also do commercial or whatever. There's just a whole range of opportunities for folks to be involved in the real estate industry. And you don't have to be just, only a realtor to be involved in the industry. There's a lot of ancillary jobs associated with it, too. So I think folks really should look at that. And then the bottom line for what makes a good realtor, I would say, is someone who has the desire to help others fulfill, like I say, one of their major lifetime milestones is buying that home and owning it, maybe selling a property, moving into something smaller at a different time. So anyone who wants to help folks do that, it's not just about the sale, it's about making sure it's the right fit for folks as they go forward. And I think that's, what I've seen. It takes that kind of attitude that I'm here to help you, and whatever I can do to make your dream come true, that's what we're all about.
I would think, too, Webb, that besides being a broadcaster, I do sell advertising here for Town Square Media. And to me, I certainly don't do the size of transactions that a realtor would do, but to me, it would seem like you'd really have to have the skill, the ability to insulate yourself from the highs and lows a little bit. In other words, you make a great sale, and that's great, awesome, and you are sky high and you're thrilled, but then, well, there may not be one for a while, right?
Yep, you may get some no's along in there, too. So you have to have some confidence. You absolutely have to have discipline. Folks think, they're working from home, they can do whatever they want. No, it's very disciplined to do your calls and to do your contacts and do your paperwork. I would say, too, there is training, and there is absolutely a process that you go to become a realtor. And so you have to be dedicated to be willing to do that as well. But a lot of folks have done it, and I think there's a real opportunity for women, especially, to get involved in the real estate industry. It's one of those markets where women do very well, also, and I think we can see in the job market out there as well, great opportunities and great success stories as well.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Webb Brown, CEO, Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service. Webb, how about, I'll call it a success stories. Does anything stand out that you have found particularly rewarding so far in your time as the CEO of MLS?
For me, just the experience of meeting all the people that are here and the dedication they have, I would look to the Board of Governors that has been involved, almost all of them, from the start of this organization and has stuck with it, the staff that has been supporting it going forward. I'm impressed with the dedication they have. And back to that principle of, again, a little bit of a play on words, the co-opetition, that they definitely want to provide the best information that they can. And then we'll compete when it gets down to the brass tacks. But they're all in this in a cooperative spirit to make the ultimate industry the best it can be.
You didn't copyright that, did you? Co-opetition? Can I steal that?
No, I didn't. I stole it from someone else. So you go right ahead.
Aha! We have busted the MLS. Your office is in Helena, yes?
Based in Helena, we also have a person in Kalispell and all of us pretty much online. But yeah, just get a hold of us. The www.406mls.com is our website. 752-0416 is our phone number. And happy to talk to folks at any time, or just shoot me an email. It's Webb, WEBB, at 406mls.com.
Webb Brown, CEO of Montana Regional Multiple Listing Service on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck. You have been a fantastic guest. I'm sure glad you came on Missoula Real Estate Today, Webb.
Thank you. I know we've been trying to do this, and I would love to have done it in person. It's always better that way. But kudos to you, and thanks again to Diane for this service.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. Contact Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@realtor.com or visit her website homesinmissoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.